When it comes to the CrossFit Open, everybody talks about preparing your body, preparing your gymnastics, maybe getting your sleep in order. But there is one thing that they all leave out, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video today. Now, you might be watching this video while you're already in the CrossFit Open, or hopefully you're getting to this video maybe before the CrossFit Open has started. But either way, there is an opportunity for you to have the best CrossFit Open you have ever had. And it comes down to one thing that most people aren't talking about: your mindset. Mindset seems to be the most overlooked thing when it comes to not only the CrossFit Open, but most things in life. And that's what we're going to be talking about today in this video. There's going to be a 3-part framework for how improving your mindset around the Open can lead to the best Open experience you have ever had. And in that 3-part framework, the last part of this video, I'm going to be talking about something that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to mindset. So make sure you stick around for that. Let's get into the framework. Okay, so point 1 here of the 3-part framework is going to be intention. So why intention? Well, when it comes to intention, it's important to understand why you're doing anything in life, whether that's the CrossFit Open or a relationship or the work you're doing. But so many people go through life without intention, without knowing the why behind what they're doing. And what that leads to is confusion. If you don't have an intention or a why, it can be really hard to understand what success or failure looks like. It can be really hard to understand what you should say yes to or no to. And it's just really hard to figure out how to orient your life or your choices without intention. So when it comes to the CrossFit Open, if you don't have intention, how do you know what success or failure looks like for you in the Open? How do you know why you're even doing it or why you're not doing the Open? When you get clear on your intention, it clears up a lot of other things around the Open. So I'll use me as an example. This year for the CrossFit Open, my intention is to simply lead by example for my community and be a source of encouragement and support for my community as I do the Open. Why is that my intention? Well, pretty clear for me is that I used to be a competitive athlete in CrossFit, pretty high level. And every year the Open comes around, it's inevitable that I'm going to start comparing myself to what I used to be as a competitive athlete in CrossFit. The problem with that is that's no longer where I'm at. But by reframing or having a clear intention of why I'm doing the Open, when that little pity party starts happening in my head during the Open because I'm not performing the way I used to in the Open, it will be easier for me to remind myself why I'm doing the Open this year. So if I'm in the middle of a workout and I'm going, oh, I'm not as fit as I used to be, oh, what's the point? I can remind myself, hey, you're doing the CrossFit Open this year to simply lead from example, show your community why you think the Open is so valuable, why it's fun, and be here for them. You're not doing it for any other reason. And that helps clear up a lot of the confusion and the riffraff going on in the brain. So I think you should sit down with a journal and just ask yourself, why am I doing the Open? What is my intention with the Open? There's no right or wrong answer here. The only wrong thing is taking on the greater idea of why you think you should do the Open to compete or something like that. Get clear on what your intention is. That's point 1. Let's get into point 2. Point 2 is not groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still something that I see a lot of people missing and not doing, whether that's in sport, in business, in relationships, and just in life, and that is setting process-oriented goals. And again, I know that's not sexy, but process-oriented goals work for a reason, and there's a reason people tell you to use them. There's a reason why the most successful people, whether they're athletes, whether they're entrepreneurs or whatever it is, use process-oriented goals. It's because it works. And it's also because those successful people realize that a lot of the things out there that we deem as successful, winning the trophy or the championship or getting the promotion, a lot of those things have things that are outside of their control. But the things that are inside of their control are their processes, their habits, their choices. So having process-oriented goals brings that locus of control back inwards, and they can have something they can focus on and work towards. This is why athletes, in the NBA, they have something like got to do 1,000 free throws after practice. Tom Brady talks about how every day at practice was winning that practice, right? It's process-oriented. In the Open, what that could look like is instead of having a goal of like, I want to beat my frenemy who always beats me in class workouts. You can't control that person's fitness, But what you can control is, let's say you've been working on your toes to bar all year and a toe to bar workout shows up and maybe there's just enough reps that you can flirt with going unbroken. Well, maybe a process-oriented goal for that workout is, no matter what, I do the toes to bar unbroken, regardless of time, regardless of score. Now you have a process-oriented goal that can help you feel like you've achieved something and it's in your control. Can you go unbroken? Is that something you can do? Is that something you can work towards? This isn't like a participation trophy or a pat on the back either. It's something that is helping you bring your focus back to the things you control, your process. So I think each week of the Open, the 3 weeks, you pick a handful of things in the workout. If 1, 2, 3 things that are in your control. Maybe there's a workout that you feel like you can RX, and so your only goal for that workout is, I'm gonna RX this workout. That's incredible. That's awesome. And those are things that are inside of your control. Stop letting your happiness or your feeling of success come from these external things, where you place on the leaderboard, beating your friends. Stop all that, bring it back, process-oriented goals for each of the workouts that come up over the course of the 3 weeks. You're gonna have a way better headspace if you do that. Point 3 is coming up, and it's the one that I think is most unique to when I'm talking about mindset and something that a lot of people don't talk about. Point 3 is going to be reflection. Now, right off the bat, you're like, that's not very groundbreaking. It isn't. But one of the things that I think makes not only CrossFit and that style of training unique, but also the CrossFit Open, is that it's an opportunity to voluntarily step into hardship, a high tension environment, a fight or flight environment. And we do so voluntarily. So it's controlled, it's safe, you're not actually running from a bear. But if you do this, you know in those moments you are confronted with your baggage. In those high tension moments, your negative self-beliefs, your limiting self-beliefs, your negative scripts, your traumas, all of that stuff bubbles to the surface because you're in that fight or flight mode, your heart is in your throat, and all of that cacophony of noise is in your head. And once the workout's over, once that high tension situation is over, we kind of just leave it there. But I think that's a huge mistake. I think that is an opportunity for reflection because there is a reason limiting self-belief came up. There is a reason why negative scripts started running. There is a reason why you started catastrophizing. And if you just leave it in the workout or leave it in the CrossFit Open, you've left a lot of possible self-betterment work on the table. And I think that's a miss. So I think after each CrossFit Open workout, let's say you're doing your Friday night lights with your gym, do it, have fun. If you start to notice some of those limiting beliefs come up, negative scripts, whatever it is, be aware of them as they're coming up and just note them. And later that night before bed, journal on it. What came up for you? What stories were you telling yourself? Why do you think they came up? And where do you think they came from? Because we all know this. Our internal dialogue, especially the limiting self-beliefs, the negative scripts, all of those things come from somewhere. For most of us, it's our childhood, it's experiences, and we interpret it in a way that's just not true, right? And we can rewrite that stuff. And this is where you have that opportunity to actually take the things that are happening in the gym and use them to build out a better version of yourself and take it to everyday life. So I think after each open workout, you should reflect on what happened, why you think it happened, where do you think those things came from. And what you're gonna find is by the end of the 3 weeks, you're actually a better version of yourself. You're a clearer version of yourself, and you know a little bit more about yourself. And I think that is one of the most unique things that can come out of the CrossFit Open if you take that opportunity. So listen, the 3 things in overview are gonna be your intention or why behind doing the Open, having process-oriented goals, and then having a way to reflect on those open workouts and what you learned about yourself in doing the CrossFit Open workouts. And really, that's what this is about. It's about taking the things we're learning in the gym, in the CrossFit Open, and then being able to apply that to ourselves and our everyday life so we can become better versions of ourselves. And if that is something that interests you and you're just watching this on YouTube, I have a whole community dedicated just to this idea of taking the lessons we're learning in the gym and applying it to our everyday life. It's called the Citadel. It is completely free. I have a link in the description. If that's something that interests you, just go ahead and click it, check it out. We would love to have you in there. I put up weekly challenges and codes. There's some visualizations in there, and it's just a really supportive community of like-minded individuals trying to build a better version of themselves. I hope you guys have a kick-ass open. Go kill it, and I'll see you for the next video.